All right. I am now joined by Jason and Touré. People know who these are. We were just talking about how we actually watched this movie that we're going to be talking about. And I did it in the most retro possible way, which is I actually found a video store and rented the DVD after checking all the streaming services I could think of and not finding it there.
I had to buy it.
When was the okay?
I had the genius idea. I think it was my idea to do this movie, and I saw it when it was on a streaming service, and I just assumed I could go back and see it on a streaming service. I could not. And then Ben rented it, and he's down here in Mexico, and we tried to watch it because I was like, let's watch it one last time. And we couldn't watch it because the DVD player that we have, we don't have the remote for.
So I recently moved to LA, where I have a DVD player that actually works. Turns out the one, which is also from me, so this is my fault. It's at Jason's apartment in Rosarito, not work. So there was a extensive attempts to make it last. Relatively recently, also, and I saw it like a couple nights ago, and lately.
Is Ben choppy for you, Touré?
He is. Yeah.
You're
I was wondering
choppy.
if it was me.
Okay. So I might be having a computer issue, but this is solvable because, as established, I'm in Rosarito right now. So I'm going to do this amazing thing and switch which window I'm speaking to you from. So give me just a moment.
He could also just walk in here.
True.
I was
he down the hall, basically.
He's actually in the terrace.
Okay.
He's on the terrace. I think he just walked inside, and it's a beautiful day. The clouds are finally gone here in Mexico, and on the terrace, it's just freaking gorgeous. And so he was sitting facing the water, so he could see the ocean. And it's 5:15 here, so you can see the careful. Oh, he's breaking my new lights.
Yeah.
You pay all this money on Amazon for some bootleg colored lights.
Well, in Illinois, we had Canada smoke.
You got to shut down the other screen.
I actually closed out the computer. I would have thought that.
Oh no! You got to do something else. Jesus Christ. Okay. He's using my line. Be amusing. I'm going to have to get him a microphone of his own. So I would ask Touré Reed to be amusing, but because he is such a stand-up professional and values his job, he can't be real Touré amusing.
Not even close.
But I'm excited to talk about this film. When I think about this movie, I think about the fact that it and Lost Boys come out at the same time. And when I watched it, I think I saw it on cable when I was young and probably ran away from the TV. It's one of those movies for me that it was a really scary movie. It definitely wasn't Lost Boys. It wasn't even Fright Night. This movie.
It's not funny. I mean, there was a subtext of humor. Anything with Corey Feldman, anyway, was automatically kind of funny.
Yeah,
he couldn't help himself. It just was what it was.
Yeah,
before the Angels.
Oh God, the Angels. Yeah, this is no humor whatsoever. And when I watched it again a few months ago, I was like, oh wow, this is a cool flick, and it was really dark. And juxtaposing it to Lost Boys, for me, I was like, oh, this is the movie that I always in my mind assumed Lost Boys was, because Lost Boys isn't that scary, even if you're younger, and the vampires are so cool. because they're supposed to be. They were supposed to be like a band,
right?
And there's something cool about, you know, Alex Winter, Billy Wirth, and Kiefer Sutherland in that film that makes you want to be down with that crew. And when you see the crew in Near Dark, they're rather frightening, and I don't want to be anywhere near them. Actually, what's so funny is we saw as we were pulling up. I'm going to get you a microphone in a second. We saw a van, and it had the windows all blacked out. And Ben goes, "Oh, dude, like the Near Dark van." I was like, "Oh, fuck, don't say that, dude."
Well, I don't think I'd ever seen a band of vampire hobos before who were basically serial killer hobos who plied their trade by drinking the blood of their victims, right? So that was interesting. I mean, there are a lot of things about the film that I think are interesting. The basic elements are cool, though I've never been thrilled with how it all pieced together, but that's maybe just me.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Jason gave you his mic. So what happened?
Well, I mean, he's going to get one. I'm actually, so I can be using something. Well, he's creating bad radio here by not being here. I'm using his, although I'm sitting in actually a chair that I, part of what I'm doing in Rosarito is picking up some stuff I left, and we'll see if Jason will once again part with this chair that I left with him. You know, when I went to LA.
How much longer do you have your place for in Rosarito?
Oh, I don't. I haven't had it. I left some stuff. I left some stuff with Jason, and I think he's claiming the chair. But here we go. Here's another mic. Yeah, this was. I heard while I was messing with the computer, I heard an analogy about Lost Boys, which wouldn't have occurred to me. So this was Near Dark was like what, 78? 87.
87.
All right. Yeah, no, Near Dark came out in the 19th century. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess I can see it. I mean, in both cases, like the vampires in Lost Boys are definitely cooler, but like they are in both cases in their own ways sort of dirtbag vampires. There's something very unglamorous about both groups.
You guys have clearly seen Lost Boys more recently than I, but I am old enough.
I mean, Lost Boys should be in your mind. It should be like kind of ingrained in your DNA at this point.
Well, I'm old enough that I saw it. I was in high school when it came out, and I was just old enough that I could actually see it without an adult present, I guess. No one paid attention back then, no. So you're slipping to R-rated movies when you're 12. And in fact, I think I saw Friday the 13th, the final chapter, in a movie theater in Greenbrier Shopping Mall in Southwest Atlanta when I was 12 or 13. No one gave a shit. But anyway, the vampires in Lost Boys, as I recall it, you could walk out of that theater if you were a kid thinking, yeah, I want to be a vampire.
Sure.
Yeah.
The vampires in Near Dark, by contrast, which I didn't see until like 10 years ago or something like that, I could not imagine walking out of the theater and saying, I wanted to be one of them.
No, you wouldn't even want to have met the hot chick. You would have been like, I hope a hot woman never, comes up to me in a shitty town in nowhere, Texas.
Well, first I'd have to go to Texas.
He comes up to her and might have avoided the whole experience by taking no for an answer.
She was being seductive with the soft serve. What teenage boy is going to not notice that?
Exactly. He didn't know any better. Like
he's like, I wanted a cone too, baby. Just add.
What's really scary about that is like all the years of touring and being in places like that, and you think like this is a creepy fucking little town. Again, why I don't take highways, and I tried my best not to ever use navigation and use a map and just take an interstate. and not take a highway. Highways are frightening. They always go through. They're designed to go through cities, go through towns.
Yeah, I mean, when I did my big trip to the West Coast in December from Atlanta, I spent a night in New Orleans, night, Griscom in Austin, and then I think it might have even been the one after that. But I remember whatever the next town was in Texas after that.
Oh yeah,
that there's the beginning of the book of Genesis, this line about before creation there was just darkness in the face of the earth. That's kind of what there is between Austin and whatever the next place was that I stayed in Texas. That starting, I remember thinking, I think I mentioned this before. I remember thinking when I left, it's okay, I want to stop for coffee, but I want to put some distance in the road before I stop. So I'll just drive for an hour or so, and then the next time I see that little Starbucks logo on the highway sign, I'll pull over. Man, that was not smart.
No.
I think I would have settled for a McDonald's at a certain point, and even that you can go 100 miles, without hitting an advertisement for a McDonald's. There is just
when you're that deep in Texas and the Texas state routes and stuff like that. It's oh, dude, you're about to see some crazy stuff and probably be warned. Don't even be surprised if you pass a sundown town.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So watching this movie, for me, it brings definitely.
Night has its price.
Watching this movie for me always brings back memories of long drives in vans with close personal friends and a lot of fear. A lot of fear for having to get gas. Please, can we make it back onto the interstate to get gas at a truck stop where there's not this many people that look like they have American flags on their house. If I see an American flag on your house, I just assume you hate everything brown. People.
Well, I don't think that's the sign in the Midwest, but in the Midwest, a Confederate flag would do it.
Oh, an American flag in the Midwest, definitely. Oh yeah,
I think it depends on where you are in the Midwest.
Honestly, why don't we take a road trip?
I live in the Midwest. I drive around.
And I'll let you go knock on all these doors.
It's not my thing, but usually the tell is if you're north of the Mason-Dixon line and someone has a Confederate flag, that's going to tell you something. If they have an American flag, in my experience, that doesn't tell you as much as you think it does. Telling you.
I think we need to have a contest.
I don't really want to have that contest because I'm not saying the outcome is 100% in line with my position. I'm saying it's not 100% in line with yours. That's my point.
I'm going to be arrogant enough to say, "Oh no, I believe that." There's signals that people give off with their flags.
That's true, but having been in the homes of people who fly American flags in Chicagoland, I know it's not 100%. Actually, I know it's not.
Spoken like a true person with good hair.
I know black people who fly American flags in the Midwest,
and I know black people that are way worse. We both know.
But again, the Confederate flag is a tell, right? And there's certain lawn signs that you probably. Definitely
if you are a black person with an American flag, I'm still frightened.
I think it's odd.
I'm still frightened.
Yeah,
I might even be a little more frightened, even if you've served. I'm like,
yeah, that complicates things a lot, though. The serving piece.
Well,
you know who doesn't have an American flag?
Ben.
No, I've certainly never had an American flag.
The Burgis family does not have an American flag.
That's true. I think in my case, the only time I've ever lived, if we're talking about me, not my parents or whatever, but the only time I've ever lived anywhere where we had a lawn in which I could have put something, right? I mean, I guess you could stick it awkwardly in your apartment window if you really wanted to, you're really eager to make the point. But, the only time we ever had a lawn, I think the only thing that was in it was a Bernie sign, like a yard sign, just to,
okay.
The election was over, just a John general principle, but but no, I've never had a flag. I don't really do flags of any kind, American or otherwise.
I had a former student, who was running for office locally, and he won, but he asked me if he could put a lawn sign in my yard. I said no, and it wasn't, and I voted for him, right? So it wasn't about anything related to him or his politics. He was a Bernie guy, and in local politics, he expresses those same kind of views. But I don't do bumper stickers, and lawn signs are just kind of the house version of a bumper sticker. It's all basically an invitation to be vandalized. Fuck that. So
that's how I feel. I don't need you to know anything about how I feel about anything.
Yeah, not strangers, right? You don't want strangers.
Yeah, I don't need strangers to know anything. I feel like I say enough with my clothes.
I suppose. I mean, I think the rate of vandalism, I know we just had this whole argument about the percentage of people with American flags on their front doors who are in the Klan or whatever. I tend to suspect that Touré is right about that, but I have not done the survey and I'm not volunteering to. But I'm
going to be wrong some percentage of the time, and you just don't want that.
That would be that to me. That would be the show that would blow us up. Like me and Touré driving. I'm with my colored friends, and I was just wondering. I have a few questions for you.
I will say though that
reparations.
I have seen a lot of cars with bumper stickers. I've driven cars with bumper stickers. I haven't had one in a while, right? But I've never. I'm sure that every 1 out of 10,000 times we vandalized it because the bumper sticker, but I really don't think it's that common.
Like I told you a while back, touring, we never put anything on our van because we didn't tow trailers because that's how you get. I know people that died towing trailers, but we didn't tow a trailer, so just a white van, any kind of van you have, looks like you're in a band. We would put nothing on it. We wanted nothing. We wanted no one to know that there was equipment in here, that there was anything of value in here.
Well, I mean that I think that's like a more reasonable concern than that somebody's going to vandalize it.
That's how I live my life.
Because of a bumper sticker.
Been in my car.
Sure, but I think that people break into cars because they think they're valuables a lot more than they vandalize it because they were just driven to rage by whatever the
fuck that guy and his rage against the machine bumpers. But look at my car. I also drive a car that looks like if you are robbing this car, you're just practicing. Like there's no reason.
You're just honing your Grand Theft Auto technique.
There's no reason for you to steal anything in here.
When I lived in New York back in the day, people who had cars and parked them on the street often put signs, well, pretty much always put signs in that said no radio in here to discourage
San Francisco
break-ins.
is the same way.
And if I recall correctly, they did that in DC too.
Yeah.
I don't know if it worked though. It worked some.
I think it encourages some assholes to break your window out anyway.
Yeah, and what if you wanted the whole car? Right, fine. You don't have a radio, but I want the car.
But what happens too is like some people will leave their door open. I don't know if you've ever heard stories like this in the city in San Francisco, we call it the city, and they'll have a thing in their window that says, "I took everything out of the glove box. There's nothing in the trunk. Please don't break my window out." And sometimes they'll leave it like the door is unlocked. There's no reason to break my window out. And so sometimes they would have the window down because people would just break the window anyway. And then sometimes because they go, "Oh, the door is unlocked. Please don't rob me." Then they come to their car and there'll be someone in it.
Wow.
Oh.
I do see.
Hadn't thought this all the way through.
They've never heard of Aunt Bay's lawn sign being vandalized. Okay, that I have definitely heard of. Again, somebody vandalizing the car, like breaking the window of the car because they're so offended by, that's like, you've got a, I don't even know, whatever, like you've got your coexist bumper sticker and I don't want to fucking coexist, but that I've never heard of. But like vandalizing yard signs, sure. Right. Like I don't think
taking yard signs,
absolutely.
That was my LinkedIn profile.
Also egging your house.
It was me and my brother flipping off a yard. Who was the guy that ran against Obama? John
Mitt
Kerry.
Romney. Oh,
No. John Kerry was
Not John Kerry.
oh, you're thinking of John
John
McCain.
McCain. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Wrong John.
Wrong John. Yeah, very.
John McCain. Yeah.
There are different kinds of war heroes.
Well, I like
Definitely
the ones
American flag at his
I
house.
like the ones who don't get
Yeah, and lapel. Oof, yeah, that was wild.
A different time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
4 years ago.
Okay.
7.
So that's like the base liberal.
It's like, I was smiling next to it, and my brother was flipping it off. I thought that was a funny profile picture for LinkedIn. This is why that I do podcasting, because no one would hire me because I look like such an asshole.
Lessons learned. Well, you know who did not have a single bumper sticker on their van were the vampires in Near Dark, because they didn't want to call attention to
They didn't want to
themselves.
call attention to themselves, but
Spray
van-
paint and aluminum foil, though.
that van would have caused all the attention.
That's
The fact that they never got pulled over in that van.
Yeah. That just because they were very worried. I mean, we'll get to it. They're very worried in the movie that if the description of the van got out in connection with their murders, then that would draw the attention.
Yeah, that's what's going to draw the attention.
But it's not just driving around in this extremely illegal car that you're not even supposed to have tinted windows. These are just solid.
foil. It's like foil, and they're driving around in the South.
Yeah. All right. So maybe they're actually would have been a nice touch for the movie if just once every 20 minutes throughout the movie they were pulled over and they ate the cop.
Yeah, more realistic, or they had to talk their way out of it.
Or either way, or just just that they were constantly leaving dead highway patrol, everywhere that they went.
It just looked like the van was as frightening as the people. And when you see the kid running from the we'll get to that.
Oh,
yeah. Okay. So when the movie starts, we are in. I know they say the name of the city a few times.
It wasn't Texarkana. Where was it? It was somewhere in Texas, wasn't it?
I'm pretty sure. Or no, it wasn't, right? Because they were in. Was it? I mean, I think it was in a neighboring state. Because wasn't there a point where they were like, "Oh, we were 4 hours away. We're in Texas."
Was it Oklahoma?
It might have been. Anyway, whatever. They're in the West. They're in Texas or somewhere Texas adjacent. And I'm not saying it's the same thing. I'm just saying it's somewhere.
I'm saying it's the same thing.
It's I don't want to invite that controversy. But
In-N-Out's better than Whataburger.
Whataburger is pretty good though. I've
It's
never
not
had
very
it.
delicious at all. It is disgusting.
All right.
It is like a school lunch cafeteria hamburger with
Compared to In-N-Out.
Compared to a school lunch cafeteria, it is not very delicious. And I'll say it in Texas, in Texas.
Well, they're in Whataburger country, and you see these guys hanging out. They're teenagers. They're wearing cowboy hats, and one of them sees this girl who's standing around. What is she even? I don't even remember.
Do you remember the names, Touré?
The girl is May.
Yeah,
That's
that
what
I
we call it.
Okay.
The boy is Caleb.
Caleb. Yep.
Mm.
So it's Caleb and his buddies. They see May, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go talk to her," and they're like, "Haha, you have no chance, whatever." But he goes to talk.
Actually, I think it's the reverse. That one of his boys is like, "I'm gonna talk to her." And he's like, "Yeah, you don't have game like me, homie."
Okay.
And so he displaced his homie and then went for ice cream, looking hottie.
Right. And she could eat ice cream, which is interesting because it seemed like
I'm not sure that she did though, right? Because the cone looked basically untouched, and she might have licked around it, but I don't think she actually ate it.
Well, What We Do in the Shadows kind of says that vampires can't eat, but if Lost Boys,
and we know that's the case in this film
in
too,
this movie,
because Caleb eats
vampires can't eat. He tries to. There's a
candy.
point skipping ahead in the plot where Caleb is a vampire, and he tries to eat a candy bar, and he has the What We Do in the Shadows reaction to it.
But what's funny is in Lost Boys, Kiefer Sutherland is eating noodles. Remember? Just noodles, Michael, and he's eating noodles as he's hypnotizing him to think that they're worms.
There we go. Okay.
So there's a mystery plot hole in the vampire rules, which were supposed to get done. That the Lost Boys was supposed to be the movie where you have vampire rules, where they started establishing.
They have to be all the same vampire rules, but
different vampire universe.
Yeah. Pretty clear.
Not 616.
Pretty clearly, I think a different vampire universe than this other one, because some of the vampire rules in Near Dark are very different.
And no fangs.
Than anything I've
seen. Did they not have fangs?
No fangs at all. Knives. I mean, they bit because May bites Caleb, but they don't have discernible fangs.
Yeah, they don't. Certainly, maybe their teeth are sharper than normal people, but they don't look, like the classic vampire fangs. So he ends up going on a drive with her. He takes her back to the family ranch to because this is his big move that he shows girls his horse, and it's a surprise, you'd be so excited, whatever, that the horse freaks out because she's a vampire.
I believe it was his stallion.
That doesn't sound better.
Well, it wasn't his heroine, his horse.
So the stallion freaks out, and all horses to me, I don't fucking know.
I don't know either.
But
I'd like to tell someone that, though. That's a dope line. Hey, you want to come back and see the stallion? What could you just say? The stallion. Don't you worry about it.
Well, if her name is Adrian, she's ready to go with that.
Adrian the stallion.
Yeah. So the stallion reacts to her like the animals at the zoo reacting to Damien and the Omen. And then at a certain point, he keeps trying to shoot a shot. It is not working. At a certain point, she starts to freak out because it's almost dawn. And so she asks, so he's giving her a ride back, and it seems like she's inclined to, she had a million chances to kill him, and it seemed like she just kind of decided not to. Although maybe, I guess you could speculate about whether the soft serve was an attempt to stretch the boundaries of, okay, is this not solid, so maybe I can get away with eating this, or whether she was just standing around seductively with the soft serve until a guy came up to her and she could kill him, which would be very consistent with the kinds of things the vampires are doing in this movie. But whatever her motives are, she's clearly decided not to kill him, and it seems like she would have, he probably would have survived the night as a human, but at a certain point, he's like, no, I'm gonna, I'm not gonna accept being shot down to this extent, and he stops the car and says, "You have to kiss me, or else I'm not, driving you home." And at that point, she bites him, and she doesn't, she doesn't kill him. But she bites him, and I guess it's a little bit of blood. I guess the vampire rules for this universe, there doesn't have to be an exchange of blood or anything, or anything like that. She just has to bite you and not kill you. I guess that's the rule. And then so she runs off, reconnects with the vampire crew. He tries to stumble home, and he's in a very slow way starting to burn up in the sun.
He's smoking.
Becoming a vampire.
Yeah. He's burnt ends waiting to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Touré, how do you feel about that? I thought that was a great way to start the film.
Yeah, it worked.
It jumps right in. There is no
Don't forget the mosquito bite at the very beginning.
I did
which apparently Kathryn Bigelow's crew had to grow from mosquito scratch because they didn't want to expose the actor to any bloodborne illnesses.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you got the DVD. It probably got extras. Mine did.
Wow.
I do have extra.
So that's how I found out.
But yeah, okay.
That wasn't on the Shutter stream.
No, that's the plus of DVDs. Extra shit you don't really need to know, and a bit more inconvenience.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things. It's like, I remember watching a lot of that stuff when I used to watch DVDs all the time. I don't think anybody's at, I think in the transition from DVDs to streaming, I don't think anybody ever, or hardly anybody ever, was like, no, I don't want to just stay here and watch it on the streaming service because it's really important to me that like I watched that 20-minute interview with the director where they reflect on it.
I like skipping ahead sometimes on DVDs.
Yeah.
I miss that.
Well, I mean,
you can skip ahead on streaming too.
Well, you can
Not
just
chapter by chapter.
Chapters, yeah. There's chapters.
Hold the remote down.
I miss that.
well, I mean, but you can always just skip ahead, right? I mean, it's like,
Yeah, kind of, but not. You know how my TV is. Pain in the ass.
But it's just one of those things, like liner notes.
Oh,
yeah. Now liner notes, I miss. Those
I
are
definitely
great.
miss liner. Can we ask people right now? Do you guys miss owning physical copies of things, and how many people watching this right now still own physical copies of things? Ben and I were having this conversation about the joy of flipping through movies and records at the record store and covers. And it's somewhat similar with streaming, but I think everybody here watching has probably spent
I miss
hours trying to find something to watch.
No, it's a totally look. I was referring that conversation. Freddie DeBoer wrote this essay called "It's So Sad When Old People Romanticize Their Past," and also the 1990s were objectively the best time to be alive. And in that essay, I mean, he's obviously embracing the sort of embarrassing part of making this argument in the title, but that's one of the things he brings up. He talks about going to record stores and look, this is a time when nobody's multitasking, right? There's no way to use the internet on your phone. You're doing anything else. Like all you're doing is standing in the store and there's music on in the background. You're going through the records and this is just music time. Nothing else is going on. And very similarly, honestly, I mean, this is like the other night when I got near dark was the first time I'd gone to the video store in many years. But I miss the experience of getting things from video stores. It's obviously not cost efficient in 2000.
Video store before Blockbuster, when there was Video Store Guy, or if you got your movies from like a weird place in your city, like, oh, go to the weird video store because they got the foreign films.
Yeah.
And then there's Video Store Cat that would like, oh, you know what you really need to watch? You should check this. If you like that, check this out.
Yeah.
No,
I missed the Cat.
No, I remember that. I mean, in Lansing, Michigan, that Video to Go until shockingly late. Actually, that survived many years longer than you'd think it would. But even I loved like the little local video stores, but even Blockbuster. I mean, like just the experience of going to a physical place and looking at all the covers, and your decision actually meant something because that was the video that you would have, or the DVD that you would have like for the next day. It's not like, oh, you could decide when you got home that it's like you didn't feel like watching that. You felt like watching something else. No, that would require a trip back to the store.
Or you waited. Were you that guy? Touré, were you that guy that would wait? And like, you got any coming back? We got some. They're supposed to come back. And you sit there and
Well,
then
my wife
scold them. They come
home. My wife has said many times over the years that she misses when we would go to the DVD rental place because we were being social, right? It was part of date night or whatever it would have been, and just the combination of the process of trying to figure out what to watch, but also speculating about the content. And we joke about what the cover or where this is going to go, and I would go into character often enough, and it would end up being entertaining for her or me when she flipped the script and those around us. So it wasn't quite as much fun as going to a bar, but it was a variation on the same theme.
It's also like, I don't know. It
just means
you could also get told no.
Yeah.
I want to go see blah, blah, blah. Like, remember when the whole thing about Blockbuster, if anybody remembers, is when you went to your local video store and I think this has come out since, videos cost so much, and Blockbuster had made a deal with these movie companies, so they had so many new releases. So when you would go there, the new release wasn't there that you wanted to see, you'd have to figure out what else you were going to get. You could actually be told no. And what is that like in this? Well, now I'm being told no, I couldn't get Near Dark, and I don't have a DVD player.
Yeah,
here,
but there is like, I mean, I think that limitation, there was something good about it, that like I've spent so many nights in more recent years. It's like, oh, I'm gonna watch a movie, and then like I sort of watch like 10,000 minutes of previews for movies that come up on streaming services, and then I decide it's too late, I'm not gonna watch anything. Or like that, like, just you have, this is what you're going to watch tonight. You're sort of committed to the decision. There's some ritual about it. I do miss that. And even the being told no is like, all right, well, you can't find this. So instead of just watching one of 10,000 familiar movies that are at your fingertips at all times, you're like, oh shit, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to watch that. What else is here?
I found so many things I didn't want to watch. Or so many things I ended up liking because I wanted to see The Thing, and they didn't have The Thing. And I'm like, fuck, what am I going to see? And then this looks okay. This Toxic Avenger looks interesting.
Yeah. Jeremy says Blockbuster was also owned by religious conservatives, put out censored copies of certain films. I don't remember that, although certainly one of the characteristic differences between local video stores and Blockbusters was whether you had that separate room off in the back.
Yeah.
That was
special movies.
Special movies, yeah, exactly.
Is that what the kids are calling it these days? The special movies.
Special movies.
Yeah. Well,
back to where Sluts 9.
Exactly.
If you
that is a South Park reference.
Like the horror in my eyes for just getting a peek.
Yeah. Yep. So. But yeah, exactly. That's that episode of South Park with where Butters accidentally says Backdoor Sluts 9
instead of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what he thought he was going to see.
So the video.
Token's reaction though was probably the best.
My ex told me that she had there was a Raiders of the Lost Ark she wanted to watch for years, and her dad had a copy of Raiders of the Lost Ark. She thought, and it was as weak as porn. No. Yeah. Yeah, so
same thing.
Yeah,
like of all the movies to hide it in, you wanted to hide it in like one of.
Well, there was also Bram Stoker's Dracula. That could cause some confusion.
Sure.
Who is this? What is this bonfire of the panties?
Yeah.
Between that and like because Tarek, you grew up with cable.
Yes.
Andy Sedaris films like Picasso Trigger and like Hard Ticket to Hawaii, like anything with boobs and ninjas and explosions in it on Cinemax at night.
Skinemax.
Skinemax,
yeah.
Used to call it. Skinemax.
Yep.
I didn't need titles. I just found the image.
Yo, you just stopped me.
This looks interesting.
The synthy horn.
I guess she must be cold.
That detective sure is working on this case a different way than they do on Magnum PI.
What's that on his desk? Oh my God, it's his client. What's he doing with that stapler? Dad, I'm confused.
Or you were like me, and I remember I would like change it to a channel over. And then like one day my mom just yelled at me. She was like, I know what you're doing. You're just changing it. I was like, well, then shut up. Let me have fun. Sit your ass in your room and quit killing this fucking vibe.
Yeah, depending on when and what type of cable remote you had to have your finger on the alternative channel for when your parents came by.
The greatest thing in the world for remotes was that instant last button.
Yes.
And you could go back like 10 channels.
Yeah.
I really feel like it was designed for me and people like me.
Well, really, what I should have seized on as a transition was that reference to Bram Stoker's Dracula. Let's just pretend I did that. So Caleb is coming back, trying to stumble back. Crucially, he gets close enough that his dad.
Great tension in that scene as well. I think they had great. What do you think? Because Touré is not as sanguine as Pasquale is in this film.
I hate the scoring in this film. There's something off with the sound production for me with it, and as I said from the start, there are elements of the film that I like very much, and it's an attractive film in an 80s way that I think the cinematography is very, very appealing, and it holds up to look at, I think, even though you know what era the film was in, so that's a compliment. But there's something off about the sound for me with this film. There's scenes that don't have pop that should have pop.
I dug the score because I dig that kind of music.
Well, I mean, the score to me, and if you recall, the action score at the end sounded like some shit out of Miami Vice.
Then, that's like right up my alley.
Then the rock score sounded like Transformers the movie.
Again, you're not saying anything I don't like. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's a fucking cartoon for like 12-year-olds. That did not work.
Look. I will walk to where you are in Illinois. I'm not going to say out loud. I will walk to where you are in Illinois. If you look me in these digital eyes and tell me that you did not think the Transformers, the movie theme song, wasn't the hardest movie theme song in the history of animated movies.
I bought the fucking movie as a grown-up, so it's not that I dislike it, but for what it is. But I don't want to see that in an adult. Well, I shouldn't say adult film. That's totally different. but in a film that is for grown-ups. How about that? A non-X-rated film for grown-ups. I need better. And my least favorite part of the scoring, because those two things did not work for me, but the synth score functioned kind of like the synth score of Star Trek: The Next Generation or The X-Files. It was just there all the damn time, and it was distracting for me. It was distracting almost the way that Spike Lee scores are distracting. There's too much music happening. Let the actors carry it. The music and that synth score wasn't really building tension for me.
Did that bother you when you watched The X-Files?
It did. I enjoyed it, but after a while, I was like, isn't that
guitar players, by the way?
What?
I said you'd punch guitar players.
Okay.
I don't know, because my immediate visceral reaction was like, oh man.
I go back and I watch the X-Files, and the thing that has struck me about it over the last 10 years when I've watched it multiple times is that at first what I liked about the X-Files is it was probably the first series of the modern era that was a saga that was made plain from season one. It's like, oh great, where's this going? And then there are all these quirky episodes which were a lot of fun that had nothing to do with the saga. When I went back and first watched it about 10 years ago, when I got my first Roku player it was in 2010, I thought the episodes that actually held up, that were still good, had nothing to do with the long story arc. And the long story arc episodes sucked.
I'm with you. The Monster of the Weeks were generally better for me than the saga. Like I got
the Worm Man, the Russian Worm Man or whatever, mutant from Chernobyl. That guy, that was awesome.
Oh yeah.
And then the online dater who liked Rubenesque women because he dissolved them and ate them.
Sure.
He was some kind of mutant.
Yeah,
all those kinds of. Oh, and the one Hungry, I think is what it was. Is one of the later seasons with the really skinny guy who worked at the fast food place.
Oh yeah.
Who was a mutant himself who ate custard.
I think all great stuff like stuff like the creepy Confederate family that had been around.
Oh yeah, gross. And then there was that awesome vampire one. There were two, but there was the one with the vampires with Luke Wilson. Luke Wilson was in it. Scully had a crush on him.
Yeah. And
there's the segue.
Mulder remembered him as being Bucktooth, and she,
Yes.
yeah. No, that was a fantastic one. So speaking
And funny.
When Caleb crucially, and yeah, I do agree that I think like there was some good tension. It was like it was a good scene. As he's starting to turn into a vampire and he's starting to burn up in the sun, crucially, he gets close enough to the ranch that his dad and sister, his mom seems to be dead or no longer in the picture. I don't remember if they ever actually said anything about that, but his dad and his little sister see him, and then they see him being grabbed and taken into this van that's all blocked out with foil, so the sun doesn't kill the vampires inside.
Van. It's just a kidnap van.
It's so obviously a kidnap van. They would not actually be able to drive for 5 minutes without getting pulled over in that van.
The police are like, what does the van look like? Kidnap van? All the kidnapping stuff. Side door, you can snatch people up, kidnap men, no windows, couldn't see who's driving.
Could have been a mobile meth lab. I mean, that's an option.
Yeah.
Also,
with some tweakers. Yes.
Yeah, those are the options, right? I mean, it's like there's nothing. Whatever the explanation is for why you have that van, it's like there's no legal possibility.
With the bike on the back.
I suppose it's 1987, so technically you could be, doing some photography on the go, and this is your mobile
kidnap van.
It was interesting though that the thing that made the RV is what it was. It made the RV seem less problematic was that there was a bike on the back of it, right? And then you discover, like, after they burned down the RV, they got like a station wagon or something, and the bike's on the roof of the station wagon. It's like, what vampire is riding bikes, right? And then you discover, of course, what the appeal is. It's bait, and I thought that was very, very clever. The bike is bait.
Touré, someone says YouTube recommending the movie Blackula to me besides this stream.
Wait, where is that? Oh yeah. That's funny. Hey, Shakespearean actor.
There you go.
Oh,
that was interesting.
Speaking of Shakespearean actor.
Yeah. All right. Well, we lost.
He bids us adieu.
We lost Touré.
That was so crazy.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, I think I want to. Well, he's over here playing on his phone.
No. I'm getting StreamYard on my phone so I can let him back.
Oh,
when he comes back, but go on.
I think like synth scores, especially by people like John Carpenter, are amazing. The score to Halloween 3. I love the score to Halloween 3. I love the score to The Thing.
Mm-hmm.
He might be one of my favorite score reverbers. Is there a name for a score reverb? A movie score?
I'm sure it is. I don't know what it is.
It's been squared.
Yeah.
But I don't think
I might have to get up to let Touré in, but keep going.
Sure. Just please don't break my lights. You want me to get out of the way so you go this way?
Yes, that could be better. Yeah, it might be. Okay. All right.
Now everybody knows that it's not that big of a room.
Cover's really been blown
On the not big room. Yeah, my very not big room. So I think Near Dark is a great film. I don't know what Touré Reed is talking about. He's just mad because he doesn't have a synthesizer. And if he did have one, he would not be as proficient in playing it as I am. And that's really what this is about. It is that he is not very proficient. He's a very good guitar player. Synth, not so much. And that's really what it's about. But back to this very, very good movie, Near Dark. As me and Ben switch up.
Yep. You should probably keep talking.
Oh, keep talking because this is all the way live.
It's live. So.
And these chairs are at different heights. I don't want you to think that Ben is 6'8". We're not like an inch taller.
I'm only like 5'11" and a half, but it's just that Jason's tiny.
Me and Jean Bajlan are the same height.
Exactly.
But I want to know what you guys feel about who watching right now has seen the movie Near Dark or remembers that moment that, Near Dark and Lost Boys both came out, and it was this kind of resurgence of vampire movies, taking them out of the castle, kind of taking them out of the Dracula aristocracy, if you will, because we also have another kind of normalizing vampire in regular world story in Fright Night that I believe comes out the next year, 88. I think Fright Night comes out. And that's another movie, right, where vampires are like, dude, I'm just trying to live my vampire life, and you guys keep messing with me. Uh-oh. He's back.
Fright Night was earlier.
Was it earlier? Was it 86?
Yeah.
You sure?
Might have been 85. It was before Married with Children.
Yeah. I mean, Fright Night.
Because I'm like, oh, shit, she was just a high school student in Fright Night 2 years ago. Now she's married to Steve.
Well, you know how this stuff works, though, dude.
Yeah, she was obviously 30 in Fright Night playing 15.
I mean,
but Sin Score.
Luke Perry is like 30 years old. Is that whole cast of 90210 was just a bunch of adults playing high school students.
I do not dislike synth scores, to be clear. It's just this synth score didn't work for me.
Dawson looks like he's 40. Like, I can't imagine.
Oh, Dawson.
That's true.
That. But the other thing, obviously, it's a much later movie, but I was thinking about as you were saying that is that Blade is also in contrast. Like, they're rich, but those are some extremely non-glamorous vampires. Like, they're not aristocratic rich.
There was that tension, right? Some were aristocratic.
Yeah. There was a class struggle within the vampires.
You had the ones who were natural born, and then you had those who returned, who were the Euro trash within the framework.
And we never get those stories when it comes to vampires. You kind of get it.
Well, you do now. I mean, ever since Blade, that's been a thing, right? The Underworld franchise. Oh my god!
I feel like Blade really changed a lot for the way we look at vampires.
That's right, though, because that was not in Blade. That was part of Deacon Frost's motivation. That he was like, oh, when I bring back the Blood God, everybody will be a vampire, and in his mind, that somehow means that nobody will care who was born a vampire and who was turned, even though, one, presumably they would all starve to death if everybody was a vampire, and two, if everybody was a vampire, the only thing anybody would care about is who was natural born and who was turned, because that'd be the only distinction that was left. Like, being a vampire wouldn't mean anything.
What was that? What was that movie with Damien Thorne? Daybreak, I think.
Yeah, Daybreak. Yeah.
And the vampires were starving to death, right? I mean, they'd executed a Nazi vampire state or whatever it was, Nazi-like vampire state, police state. And they were running out of people to eat because they got too efficient.
Right. Yeah. Well, this is not a problem that the vampires in Near Dark.
No, it's very inefficient.
Because they're just not good at it at that level of efficiency. But when Caleb is snatched up into the kidnap van, the other vampires in there are about to kill him. That's their first reflex. Just totally unthinking. It's like, oh yeah, who's this guy? I don't know. Fuck him. Let's just kill him. And then May, defends him. Says no. Like he, I turned him. I think he could be one of us. And they're like, all right, we'll hold off a couple days on murdering him. Give him a trial period to see if he can become one of us. And fun thing here is nobody ever says the word vampire, even when Caleb keeps expressing I don't understand what's going on or whatever. Like, she never says, "Oh yeah, you're a vampire now."
Yeah,
she's he's just sort of supposed to pick up on that, but she does eventually tell him that. That he's really strong, that he can see well in the dark, that he's going to live more or less forever. But and she does throw this in as almost as an afterthought. This is like the last thing she says. You are going to have to just constantly murder people. And
one little caveat.
Yeah, the night has
and it was nightly, it seemed. It's not like they had a reserve that they could live off of for a couple days.
You would think if you went through the trouble of making the kidnap van, you'd at least go through the trouble of getting like a cooler of blood.
Right. Apparently it doesn't work that way for them.
Or I just think they didn't think that way.
Yeah, I think that
they were a bunch of serial killers.
Probably other vampires who do travel around with blood coolers. It's just that these particular vampires, like, just as a matter of personality,
like the Griswolds,
like they're just not gonna do that. It's like I don't know. I remember in Michigan,
a vampire family.
Yeah. There were
Michigan.
It's like Santa, whatever.
Santa Carla. It's like Santa Carla.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I remember that that at least as when I was growing up, maybe still now, there's this sort of half-assed blue law. You can't sell liquor on Sunday before noon. You can do it afternoon on Sunday. And so I remember many years ago talking to this girl, told me she worked at this grocery store, and there'd be these like old alcoholics who would show up like basically with the store open to like pace around to wait for it to be legal to sell them liquor. I was thinking, well, why wouldn't you just stock up? Right.
I saw that in Illinois. It's the same law. It seems.
But maybe just again, there are people who are good at planning ahead and stocking up, and then there are people like the vampires in this movie, who they were just not
just living. You know how when you live reckless for like your 20s, and then your 30s catch up to you, and it's like I can't be so reckless. I guess this is what it's like to be forever 20, and you just don't have to. You you strong, and you can kick people's ass, and like. I guess it'd be like being around a Marine who's also a CrossFitter who also just learned MMA. Like it'd have to be like being around that type of mentality. Where you're constantly like, oh, dude, just kill that dude. But I like him. You'll like somebody next week. Trust me. You're fine. We're hungry. You'll get over it. Yeah. You're not gonna die. You trust me. You will not remember this dude in 25 years. When you have to think about time like that too.
Right.
They were telling stories. Later in the movie, they tell stories like, oh, back in 1865 in the Civil War, remember we killed those people? And you're like, Jesus, what does time look like for you?
Lance Henriksen and Bill Paxton started the Chicago Fire.
Right.
Lance Henriksen was a Confederate soldier.
Yeah,
I knew I didn't like him. Right.
Just, like, and you think like, oh, that's totally why he stayed in the South. He's just like,
yeah.
Like, I just can't get my mind around, this equality thing.
Also, there's one of the other vampires is this kid who's like permanently a kid.
That's gotta suck. I do like that in What We Do in the Shadows, they make that a crime punishable in the vampire court, that you can't make a baby a vampire.
Yeah. When did Interview with a Vampire come out?
Oh,
that was the early 90s, right? Like 93.
Yeah, that was in the 90s.
Okay, yeah, because I
remember that book.
They had that in there. There was there was like that little girl who was permanently a little girl.
Kirsten
Dunst, yeah.
Brilliant performance. That was creepy because it was so damn good.
Yeah.
Performance.
And this was like I was like kind of haunting. I mean, here was definitely the dirtbag version of
dude,
of that experience.
And this scene is coming up, the one you're gonna talk about, right? Where they go on their hunt.
Yeah.
I don't even call it a hunt.
Yeah. So one of the things you see, this is what makes me think before she decided that she liked him and eventually decided was going to turn him. Made me think that that was like a entrapment technique for the guys.
The ice cream thing was bait, 100%.
Yeah.
She just liked it.
That's why I only date women lactose intolerant.
Apparently, she's lactose intolerant.
So you see, one of the things they do is the kid who's like permanently a kid, who, although he's like always like drinking, smoking and stuff.
Yeah.
And apparently goes on at great length about how much it sucks to have to permanently be a kid when you're not a kid on the inside, which, fair enough. But but one of his version of that is that he pretends that his like bike was hit, so
it's the bike.
He's on the ground,
that was brilliant.
He's on its side, so when like some kindly adult comes over to help him, he can eat them.
That right there really sets the tone to let you know that these are not cool vampires.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you want them to be cool because the cover of the movie is fucking cool.
Yeah.
Right? And you want to enjoy this weird Romeo and Juliet love story between this regular dude and this vampire chick. But when the kid does that, you're like, oh, dude, get out of there.
Yeah, because for a lot of the movie at this point, the tension after Caleb has turned and he's had all this explained to him is like, is he going to be able to? And for a lot of time, actually, I will say, I watched this movie, I thought that, for a minute, I thought, I was like, well, he'll just get over it and he'll start killing people. But
no.
But he doesn't, right? He can't. And that's, and he even likes, he's not so good that he won't just stand by while they're murdering people left and right. And he even kind of wants to be part of the gang. He obviously likes May.
And Bill Paxton is that real shitty brother-in-law that you have to get along with.
Yeah.
But you just want to punch him in his face.
Sure.
And that's Bill Paxton. He kind of was great at playing those roles for the majority of his career. Chad,
or whatever. Yeah. Real Weird Science.
Weird Science.
Well, I didn't like the fact that he ends up killing Teresa Randall. We don't see it, but he gussies himself up to snap up two attractive young women in a pickup truck, Bill Paxton, and one of them is Teresa Randall.
Mm-hmm. And dude, you know what? Shitty dude.
Yeah.
Shitty dude. These are like the worst. These vampires, again, really set the tone for what you're going to get 10 years later with a movie like Blade, more so than maybe any other vampire movie that we see, as far as these guys just kind of being like roguish pieces of poo.
Well, yeah, so he does want, so he does try to go home. He goes to the bus station. There's this nice scene at the bus station. He tries to eat a candy bar and realizes that he can't eat food anymore.
Did the vending machine jump out to you guys? The pinball feature? I'd forgotten all about those vending machines, but that stood out to me at least as much as his inability to digest chocolate.
I don't remember the vending machine.
It was an old school vending machine, with the sort that you would have found holding on in 1987 in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma or Texas. But those old school vending machines were very different. They weren't digital. So you pulled out.
Oh, when you pulled that's what you meant about pinball vending machines. Yes, I think some of them still exist in some bus stations. I remember seeing one.
Wow.
When I used to take the bus to work in Lafayette.
Oh, Louisiana.
Yeah, and by bus I mean the Greyhound from Oakland to Lafayette.
Damn, that's a schlep.
Yes.
Were you able to hold it the whole time, Jason, or did you have to use the facilities?
The things I did on those Greyhound rides, I should not say on air, but I've done everything you can do on a Greyhound bus.
All right.
Oh, well, look at that.
Okay.
Backdoor sluts night. Right. I got you.
Live the life.
So you said something about Bill Paxton.
I'm not going to start asking about specifics. But
I will tell you a funny off-air story then.
Fair enough. But he's at the bus station. There's like a cop who considers him suspicious because he's like being sweaty and weird at the bus station.
That was odd.
Yeah. Thinks he's on drugs, but ends up giving him money for the bus.
That exchange did not go where I thought it would go, because I thought it was going to go to something tawdry.
Extrapolate.
So you want those $3, huh? I got your $3.
Come here to the big city of Tulsa. Dance, young man.
It was much more wholesome than I thought it was going to be. I thought he was going to stroke his. It just in the bathroom stall.
Disabilities of film just went all the horrible, like Charles Bronson, Angel, and all those other fucking shitty.
Well,
movies,
when you were talking about Bill Paxton as the shitty brother-in-law or whatever, and thinking about his hostility toward Caleb, and also Lance Henriksen's characters, Jesse's hostility or circumspection toward Caleb, I kept thinking, well, what if Caleb had been played by Timac?
By who? Timac?
Timac from The Last Dragon. How would that have gone?
That's
exactly. It would have been a much shorter film. Much shorter film. But as I recall it, Adrian Pasdar would have been, from Lance Henriksen's vantage point, the character, Jesse's vantage point, some kind of biracial in real life, because I think he's a part Iranian.
I mean, in real life, in the movie, he's just
they dyed his hair. I mean, they whitened him up a little bit for the film, as was the style of the day.
Can you imagine if Lance Henriksen's character was like a racist vampire?
I think he kind of was.
Like, you brought this.
That's my point, though. Like, had it been Timac, it had pulled out that character a bit more. So you really did fight for the South.
Bring in one of these colors into our murder vehicle. I declare.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I say so.
I think it was at least a little bit implied that, in addition to murdering people every single night, that's problematic attitudes. But or at least, be surprised.
That would have been, I think that would have been the sequel that I wanted to see, like them just being racist throughout the South.
Yeah.
I would have definitely paid to see that. And having like a Near Dark in the Hood, kind of like doom in the bass place, because they get to the wrong side of town.
Well, I mean, and it's kind of funny that his love interest, Jesse's, Lance Henriksen, racist vampire, his love interest was Jenny Goldstein, right? Because there's the three actors who were both who were in the Terminator and Aliens, Henriksen, what's his face, Paxton, how could I forget, and Jenny Goldstein. The fact that Jenny Goldstein was hooked up with this Confederate was kind of funny. Kind of interesting.
She's one of the good Jews.
Well, not as funny as Jonah Hill playing a Klansman in that horrible Django, which invented the Klan several years before it existed.
Yeah, I forgot about
that. That was an interesting choice.
The Django. We were talking about Django the other day.
Don Johnson, I think, was the head Klansman.
Wait, Jonah Hill was in Django?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think so. That's my recollection. It's been a minute since I've seen it, and I watched it.
Don Johnson. We were joking about earlier, like Don Johnson in Django. I think he really enjoyed his role. Like I believe in my soul that he wasn't acting at a certain part.
I mean, I like. I think we've established that I like Tarantino movies quite a bit, probably more than anybody else in this discussion. But I did. We were talking about this the other night. It's like the man clearly has a problem. He likes putting that word in too much, and it's so the joke I was making the other night is that it seems like as time passed, sometime in the 2000s. That got a lot less socially acceptable. So it's like, okay, but I still have like 200 more N-words I want to put in scripts. How could I, maybe I could just concentrate them all in one movie. What could I do? Where can I set this that would make this?
Where can I put all these ends? Slave revenge film.
There we go.
And then I think that blew up in his face, right? I mean, Django was obviously very well received, not by me, but by a lot of people.
Mhm.
And I thought not long after it came out, because it was like 2012, I think, he was at some sort of an award ceremony where with Jamie Foxx and maybe Sam Jackson, and he did something at the awards ceremony where he, presented himself as he always did, as the cool white guy who could cross lines, and they checked him. And it might have been not too long. It might have been a couple of years after Django, not too long after the murder of Trayvon Martin and the genesis of BLM. But don't hold me to that. That's a recollection. I haven't been drinking at all, so that increases the likelihood I might be right.
I don't know. I think maybe he has been drinking. That sort of volunteering.
I don't
volunteering out of nowhere that you haven't been drinking.
Just making clear that this is not a flight of fancy. I promise that I saw that. I'm confident I recall seeing this on tape on television.
No, yeah, but
I haven't seen the Hollywood movie he did. Did they say the N-word in that Hollywood movie?
Nothing I've seen. No, they don't. Nothing about that story is influenced. Everything about that sounds like something that could happen.
And I didn't say anything about edibles, but I'm good with the breathalyzer. We're good there.
Matt L said he'd already done Holocaust revenge porn, so why not slavery? You can't get the N-words out in the Holocaust one, but you could really lean into the ends in Django. And I feel like he just leaned, like Don Johnson, when they were doing the casting for that, like, are you comfortable with the N-word? We know you worked for years with Philip Michael. That nigga! I think we got the man for the job.
And I checked. Jonah Hill wasn't one of the would-be Klansmen. The number
he wasn't.
He was.
He was.
Oh, okay. I totally blanked that out of my memory of that movie.
Jumped right out at me as an odd choice. But
Klansman, you were like, there's got to be another Jewy Klansman in that movie.
The Klan in the 1860s was not the Klan of the early 20th century, and so I guess that's a difference.
Not the Klan and Django at all, because the war.
It's several years too early.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's just another reason.
But he also said the war started a year earlier than it did too.
But yeah, no, I actually saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood again quite recently. I saw that at the New Beverly, and there is no use of the N-word in there, so maybe he got it all out of his system.
I don't believe that at all.
I think he got checked, is what happened.
Well, that could be too. Who knows how many there were in the original draft of the script, and
Can you imagine the black head of a studio that he's getting it done at, and they walk in like lambda, Revenge of the Nerds. He's there at the meeting.
Tyler Perry Studios.
Mr. Tarantino. We've read over your script and we have some changes.
We will be replacing Don Johnson with Ernie Hudson. Who will be reprising his role from Penitentiary 1 and 2.
Did you say From Hand to Rocks the Cradle?
Penitentiary 1 and 2.
Oh, you said
no, definitely not that one. And not Ghostbusters either.
You can do it too, sweet. We should make Ben watch Penitentiary and just do the thing by himself.
You should watch Penitentiary.
Okay.
You should watch that.
You want to keep him further out of jail?
I wouldn't. I mean, I have been living on the wrong side of the law. But,
he'll stop having black friends after you watch Penitentiary.
There you go.
I had no interest in committing crimes after I saw that film.
Oh, well, you know who has no black or Spanish friends? The vampires in New York.
That's right. Very clear.
And I'm not using the word Spanish in that like shitty way to refer to everybody from a Spanish-speaking country. Nando is from like Spain Spanish. But yeah. So eventually, he's back. Caleb's back with the vampire crew. You see them. He's given like one last chance to show that he's capable. He has it in himself to just murder people every night. And so they go out and do something, you get the sense this is the kind of thing they do a lot.
Yeah.
Where they just go to a bar and order some drinks and pick a bunch of fights with, like tell everybody in the bar that, they're gay and, their moms suck cock and, whatever they have to say to get them riled up. And then they kill them all. That seems to be the procedure.
And once again, Caleb punks out.
What's that?
Once again, Caleb punks out.
Yeah, once again, he punks out. So he does. Because they've killed everybody else in the bar. There's like one guy who May lets go because she'd be like, "Oh, here we go. Here's a practice murder for Caleb. He can do this. We'll leave this for him." And Caleb, using his new vampire strength, whatever, chases the guy down, but then he takes pity on him at the last moment and lets him go. And now they're worried for the first time that they're going to get, that they're going to get pulled over in the murder van.
Which is funny. Like, what are cops going to do that no one else could do? Like, you're a super strong vampire.
Get him in a daytime.
Again, how are the cops not pulling you over every 5 minutes just in the normal course of things? But whatever. They go to this. It's not a hotel. Where do they go to stay?
They go to a motel.
Bungalow. It was a bungalow. They rented a bungalow. It was a hotel type setup or motel setup, but it was specifically a bungalow that Lance Henriksen had stayed in 50 years earlier, I guess, and the guy recognized him.
Yeah, no, there was
which is crazy.
Yeah, there was a nice scene. Yeah, that was a good scene. Because he's waking the guy up in the middle of the night to check him into the bungalow, and then eventually he's like, "Don't I know you from back many years ago?" And he's like, "Yep, I stay here. About once every 50 years. Expect me back." It's good if you're keeping a low profile to say things like that. But
it's also crazy if someone remembers you.
Yeah.
Like we were out
today.
I wouldn't remember anybody from the restaurant that we saw today.
Yeah, that is a hell of a memory.
I would never. You have to really stand out.
Yeah.
Like what did he have on 50 years ago that made that guy go, "My goodness"?
Yeah. Well, he had that scar on his face.
Still, how many people with scars have you seen in your life? I've seen a lot.
That was a unique scar. I haven't seen that scar.
Yeah, maybe.
That was a war wound style scar.
That looks like a bayonet scar, sir.
Yeah. That didn't heal right because you didn't have a plastic surgeon.
They didn't have any surgery.
Right.
Which is interesting in itself. So I guess if you, because they established many times during the movie that if you're already a vampire, you can get shot, whatever, it'll just heal up right away, no problem.
Like Wolverine.
But I get exactly right. But I guess any injuries you sustain before turning just stay.
Yeah, that's not uncommon.
Among
vampires.
I mean, I'll imagine you said that like a vampire scholar. Touré Reed, vampire scholar, as well as a sociologist and historian.
Vampires have that, yeah.
Yeah, in my research,
there it is.
Dr. Anne Rice often writes that.
Yeah. Well, so the cops do catch up to them because they're. Because the murder van is out in plain sight outside of the bungalow, and he just said the weirdest shit ever to the guy he checked into the bungalow with and then didn't kill.
And the witness was with the cops too, confirming it. Which the witness, I wouldn't have gone with them.
Like there are many ways which they're not being very stealthy, and they really should have been, because when they're quartered at the bungalow and the cops start firing bullets into the bungalow, the sunlight gets in. And burns them up, and when they're driven out, start to burn up. But Caleb proves himself for the moment.
Mm-hmm.
He manages to race out and have a blanket over him and not quite completely burn up in time to get into the murder van and drive the murder van back and get the rest of them. So again, he does, even though he has not been able to bring himself to personally murder anybody, he is eager to be part of the group.
For May.
For May, yeah, that's right. Although they get so they're So they're like, all right, you bought yourself some time. You saved us all, right? You're still going to have to murder some people soon, right? But like, we'd still like you for the moment. In fact, it's kind of accepted in. The older vampire tells him the thing about fighting for the South. Jesse, right, gives him the spur, right? So which does seem to be a big deal to Caleb. So they're staying at the motel. This is when they're at the motel. And the awful kid vampire goes out and is hanging around by the vending machines, looking for murder victims, and
as one does,
and he sees Caleb's sister, and he has the inspiration. I think it seems like the implication is he's seen Caleb and May being all coupling and think it's like, hey, what if and there's an interesting question here about whether the kid vampire is technically a pedophile or not, this because he is sort of a kid himself, but it's like, hey, what if I turn myself, a girlfriend who's my same physical apparent age, and so he invites the sister back to the motel room to watch TV with her, and then of course Caleb and the sister, see each other, reunite. Everybody's happy. His dad shows up because he's there. They've been out looking for him, and then it turns out that Caleb being accepted into the group has hit a major snag because he's too squeamish to want them to murder his family.
He also doesn't know his family was looking for him.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. Like, oh wow, I love you guys. I miss you. Fellas, meet my dad. You may know him from movies such as
mainly television shows too, right? I mean, I recognize.
From a lot. My favorite role of his is he did the first Tales from the Crypt. First Tales from the Crypt episode.
The very first episode.
Yeah,
I didn't remember that.
But yeah, so it's like there's a lot. It's kind of a sad scene because his time with the murder gang is coming to an end. It's like when your mom, you're like, oh man, dude, it's midnight, curfew's about up. Time to go back to regular life. No more murdering.
Okay, well, and he's reminded of how treacherous they are since they seem to want to turn his sister and kill his dad.
Yeah. And that's not what a real friend would do.
Exactly.
No, it's more of a hanging partner situation, as my father.
Hanging partner. Yeah.
Sure. You got your friends, son, and you got your hanging partners.
You've got your real friends, and you've got your murder.
And that's really the lesson of this film. It's like a father-son, parable. It's
really is that how you look at it?
That's how I look at it. That's how I look at everything. Everything is a Karate Kid. It's just father-son.
This actually feels to me more like a guy who's fallen in love with a woman, a boy who's fallen in love with a girl who is abused by her family, but she's also invented sex for him. And because she's invented sex for him, he's obsessed with her and wants to save her. It's not just regular love, it's you invented sex for me love, which is a whole nother level. Again, coming out of an abusive household, right? And he does save her.
Yeah, so skipping ahead a little bit, there's some fighting and some running around, and he manages to.
We just sound like Benny Hill. And that's where Touré really hates the movie, when it takes that fucking British humor turn.
Well, it will soon take a Miami Vice score turn.
Music and run around between the motel rooms, and eventually Caleb gets back with his family. He's there's because he hasn't had because he hasn't been willing to murder anybody yet, but he has been drinking blood from May That's how he's been staying alive as a vampire, and that hasn't happened in a while. He's in a bad place. And eventually, this is like, I think it worked on a sort of symbolic level, but it was a little unclear to me what the logistics of this were supposed to be. That his dad like takes him to, I don't know, the blood transfusion room at the ranch.
Yeah, you know, because everybody's dad has one of those.
What,
your dad didn't have whoever's watching this, I know your dad had a blood transfusion room where he was practicing on animals.
He was taking blood from his animals, and that was established very early on. So the equipment, there was a reason to have at least some of the equipment that was established from the start.
Yeah, so somehow whatever blood transfusion thing his dad does somehow causes him to not.
Every small town has a dad blood transfusion man.
He was like a cattle rancher. And cattle ranchers are always transfusing blood from cows to people. That's how that works.
Sure.
You said that shit with a straight face.
Ben nodded.
Ben nodded like,
yeah, sure.
Hey, this is how.
We established is that you could tell me literally anything about cattle ranching. I'd be like, oh, okay.
That's a real thing. Ben's at dinner. Hey, you know, I was talking to Touré the other day. You know, Dr. Touré Reed, the guy. He told me the weirdest shit.
I learned a new thing about cattle ranching. All right.
Can you imagine Ben going on a field trip
with a bunch of cattle ranchers in Montana?
Hey, show me where you transfuse the blood to the people. Fuck did that guy
from cow to people?
Don't look at me like I'm dumb. Where you take the cow blood and you put it in the people? I've seen the doc.
That's how you get veal.
I like the way that Jason has captured my accent and the rhythm of my voice.
And he's transposed it from your dad to you. But it actually began with Eddie Murphy's father. So from Eddie Murphy's father to your father to you. Yeah.
It's all the same person.
It's like Denzel Washington's Fallen.
It's all the same person.
Yeah, so I don't know why the blood transfusion makes him not a vampire anymore. Very unclear to me.
No rules.
But
I could see dialysis.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
So
dialysis for vampires that don't want to be vampires anymore.
That's the way to go.
I hope that's on. I hope whoever if there's really you were there, then one of the writers from What We Do in the Shadows will do a whole episode where they go to dialysis.
And failing that, bone marrow transplant.
Bone marrow transplant.
I mean, in What We Do in the Shadows, I mean, the show, not the movie, they're like, it is a major plot point that there are like people who claim that they can turn vampires into people.
That Cree Summers episode was one of the funniest episodes.
But
it's been one day since you looked at me.
pretty clearly in the What We Do in the Shadows universe, that's just not possible. In the Near Dark universe, it's very easy.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it just happens like nothing. I mean, again, I think like symbolically what it felt like to me was that he's like no longer, you know, like whatever, drinking and doing drugs with his buddies. He's back home and he's like detoxed, right? That's like, that's kind of how it was presented. But, you know, the effect is that he's just a regular human again.
So you think the vampires are just to stand in for hard drugs? This is like a big Just Say No movie.
I don't think they're just that, but I think that's like maybe one of the things they're playing with a little bit.
Interesting.
But
interesting.
I think that makes sense, and it harmonizes with my thing too. So, drug-addled, abusive family.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Oh,
yep.
Saving her. She invented vampire sex for him.
She invented vampire.
She is the greatest
girl
woman ever.
In the shadows, that'd be like last one. Oh yes, no, she invented vampire sex.
She bit my neck. I sucked her wrist. It was beautiful.
Exactly.
There was something very erotic about the wrist sucking in that movie.
Oh yeah.
And so is that then how the juvenile response to that is like you think you're in love with someone just because you're having intercourse, but it's not really love?
Yeah, maybe. So in
Wow, you guys just shit on all my marriages. There you go. Thanks.
You throw a starving man a cracker. That wasn't an ordinary cracker. That was a saltine. No, it was a Ritz. That was a Ritz.
That wasn't a saltine. That was a
Ritz. God. Greatest cracker I've ever had.
That's how I just dive into relationships.
Yeah. So the vampires kidnap his sister.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though he's human now, and so not nearly as strong.
Hey, he's just non-vampire. What's wrong with you? Jesus. Jesus. I'm on this show with the cis het bearded male, and all of a sudden we're misgendering and we're abusing. Look, he's just a non-vampire. Don't normalize the hate. Fuck is wrong with you?
All right.
Jesus. Where are we? 2005? Whoa.
Didn't realize we'd switch vampire universes again. Now we're in True Blood. Remember in the opening credit sequence to True Blood, they've got the like Westboro signs. God hates fangs.
You've God hates fangs. That's Ben.
Yeah.
Ben is the
Westboro.
Westboro.
No longer a dirty, disgusting vampire.
Yeah. A mongrel race of people. No good. To not take them anywhere.
Yeah. All right.
Always dancing.
Thank you.
He's now a non-vampire, and as a non-vampire, he is not as strong as them. But nevertheless, he goes to confront them, and he like Jesse, he manages to kill, because one of the things we have established earlier in the movie is that like fire is like the one thing besides sunlight. While the sunlight will kill them because it sets them on fire, right? Fire seems to be the one thing that kills them. There's no this doesn't seem like the kind of vampire movie where like stakes and crosses and shit are gonna work.
That was just not even mentioned. Stakes and crosses aren't even mentioned.
Yeah.
Wait, was there a cross at any point? No, because there's no fangs.
Yeah.
A lot of the mythical elements, I think, are taken out of this movie. There's no like not seeing your reflection, if I can remember. It's just kind of the simple. There's no like, oh, you didn't invite me in. Like none of that shit happened.
No,
nobody flew.
There doesn't seem to be any need to invite anybody. Crosses never come up.
Bats.
Yeah.
Bat.
No bats are flying. Nothing like that. Basically, I mean the classic vampire things are you stay young forever. You can't be in the daylight.
It was like
super strong. You're super strong.
You're super strong.
It's again because Lost Boys is a Peter Pan film. It started off as a Peter Pan film, so that whole conversation, Michael, you'll live forever, like that's taken from Peter Pan. Whereas this is totally the flip side of that, where like, no, this is kind of going to be a nightmarish existence for you. Anything that may be cool, it comes at this very, very dark price. Like, look how shitty we are. That kid's balls are forever going to be in his stomach. Forever. Think about that. He's like 400.
Yeah.
So pretty nuts.
All right.
But he was like 12 or 13 or something when he was turned into a vampire, right?
You say you hoped he was 13?
He would have been like 12 or 13.
He's like 12. His voice didn't even change. What a shitty vampire.
Well, I haven't spent as much time thinking about his balls, but
that's the thing. Yeah.
Like, move right on from that.
I didn't draw pictures of him like fucking Leonardo.
In your mind, you did.
I wasn't sitting there.
Draw me all in your mind.
Draw me like one of your
French vampires. Yeah. Well, I will. So Michael Albrecht, the chat, responding to the previous, discussion about my problematic comments, says, vampirism is a choice, which in this movie it kind of is. But in any case, although most of them don't know that. Because when Caleb sees May again, she's weirded out. Like, this is clearly her first exposure to the idea that vampirism can be cured. Says, "Oh, you're warm. What happened?" Then I don't know. There's some more, running around the streets as the Benny Hill music plays in the background. Manages, she ends up helping him to waste the other vampires, and then he takes her back to the ranch.
Mhm.
She wakes up. He's detoxed her, and she seems to be, I don't know quite how she feels about that at the end. But
It would have been cool if she went back to the age she was when she turned to a vampire. That would have been cool.
Well,
that would have been more Twilight Zone-y, like, haha.
But she's just stayed that age.
Yeah, like if she goes to the age that she would have, because she was an older woman. She wasn't 18. So she goes to being like 58.
Well, it's a little bit unclear. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, with the blood transfusion. Yeah.
Well, that would have been a very different ending.
Yeah, that'd be like the Twilight Zone kind of ending, like walk, 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 walk. That's the twist. That's the M. Night Shyamalan twist that would have, Touré would have appreciated that twist.
Would he?
You know how much I hate M. Night Shyamalan.
Shyamalan along the King Kong.
I think we just did 2 racisms in this show.
I was just repeating you. I always think
1, 2 racisms. Oh.
I do appreciate that all of his films are set in the Philadelphia area. That's cool.
Sure.
I kind of liked Devil.
I did like Devil. Really?
Hated Signs, though. Signs was terrible.
I did not get Signs at all.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mind Signs that much when I was watching it. Like, I think the twist is very dumb.
It's a stupid movie.
Like,
why would aliens who will melt if they touch water come to Earth?
Yeah, so they
not wear spacesuits, run around naked.
Yeah,
it rains in this fucking planet.
They intentionally go visit the planet that's mostly water.
Yeah,
like and run around naked on that planet. Like,
it makes no sense.
Like they do the equivalent of human astronauts going to a planet that's like 3/4 arsenic. And
right.
and
but you can breathe the air.
Trying to like eat some of the local creatures who are also mostly arsenic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a reason why you guys don't like Shyamalan.
Shyamalan, M. Night Shyamalan, is that it?
Shyamalan. I hope he's not watching this show.
Yeah, M. Night.
Unsubscribe.
Yeah, I don't actually think it's a racist joke. I think it's a joke at the expense of the fact that it's hard to remember how many syllables are in that name.
Don't try to make it better now. I'll stand by it. I'll Archie Bunker that shit. Edith.
I watched that. I didn't like that.
I didn't like Signs.
Yeah, no, I think the ones I can remember seeing are Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Signs, and those might have been it. I might have just had my feeling after that.
All bad. I think Devil's his best one, personally.
Didn't he make a new movie?
Yeah, he did.
Touré, look at the comment.
I can't see it.
It says, I give Jason and Touré. I know not me, just the two of you. I give Jason and Touré pass as an
Indian. You know why?
I guess it's the mispronouncing M. Night's last name pass.
Yeah. I would, what's funny? I would probably, if I met him, I'd be the same. Like, Sam.
You just cough at the end.
Sorry.
Nice to meet
Excuse me. It's long.
Hey, I feel for people with unusual names. My first name was always a pain in the ass for me. So,
cool.
Hence the parenthetical.
Kuba. I don't even try to say Kuba's last name.
Yeah, I think I've actually referred to him multiple times on stream as Kuba, unpronounceable Polish last name.
Yeah, and he gets and if you try and you don't do it, he looks at you like, you know, all the words that you do know how to say, you son of a bitch, that don't make sense, and you can't say this. I'm like, no, I can't say it.
Yeah.
There's too many consonants next to each other, and they're just crammed.
Yeah. Honestly, this is kind of on the nation of Poland for not like
Basically,
thinking about this and making it easier to say.
God hated you because you're Polish.
For the Anglophone world, yes.
Yeah.
I hope he's not one. I'm gonna get a phone call in a second. Kuba's just gonna shut all the internets off. He's just gonna shut everybody's internet off.
Yeah, you can do that.
With one phone call.
Yeah. Well, in the interest of avoiding that phone call, I'm gonna slam the brakes on this line of thought.
No more racist talk.
That is enough racisms for one stream. You know.
I think that's enough racism for your channel for the year. Like you are not TIR where we're allowed a certain amount of discrimination.
Sure, I can see that.
But never against vampires.
Well, you don't. If there's one community you don't want to get a reputation for being biased.
I'm an ally. They look at me as an ally.
Yeah.
They Someone says Ben's reached his carbon cap.
Can I buy some?
That's what Tarantino does. He buys all those N-words.
All right.
What offsets it?
Yeah, what do you have to do for your N-word offset? Like does Tarantino just spend his life in DEI training?
He directs DEI training videos. That's what he does to offset it.
Man, that would be ironic.
Buy some racism.
Is Phil Lamar in those DEI videos?
These things are not acceptable anymore. Someone put a video on Instagram of one of those training videos from the 90s. Have you seen it? And it's two women, and a woman is making copies, and another woman walks into the copy room. She goes, "It smells like vagina in here."
What?
Fresh vagina? And it goes, things that are no longer acceptable to say.
Oh, got it.
I was like, what office were you working in?
Well, so they made that up, right? I mean, that's like that Key and Peele 1987.
If they did it, it's an amazing
bit.
job because they got it down to the hair.
Yeah.
The lighting.
That can't be real. Did you see the Key and Peele 87, 86, whatever fitness competition bit? Because that's what they did. They got the lighting, the hair, the wardrobe. It was quite believable. And in fact, if you were to go on YouTube, you could probably find a juxtaposition between the real one that they mocked and theirs. And it's pretty spot on.
I mean, I've seen my fair share of those videos, and it was somewhat spot on. I mean, they don't seem to be based in reality.
Yeah, John, the chat says sounds like Tim and Eric, which it kind of does, just in this sort of like gleeful randomness.
The look on the woman's face that's being told that, it had that look of those videos, those training videos.
Well, yeah, Sid says, wasn't there a Whitest Kids You Know sketch where you could literally buy saying the N-word? That sounds like something they might have done. I didn't watch that one, I will say. And I've watched a fair amount of the Whitest Kids You Know, but who knows? Yeah, so what do we think about the movie?
Enough with these N-words. N-words, what do we think about the movie? Oh, Touré sent it.
Yeah.
Did you find? Is that
Campbell
this is the thing that you were talking about? With, oh, you know, I can't. Can I share a screen in here?
No. Did you put it in the group chat or did you just send it to Jason?
I just sent it to Jason.
Okay, if you put it in the group chat, then I could.
Can you play stuff like this? Or are you afraid?
How bad is it?
Take a look. I mean, it's their spoofing of a real thing. I'll send you the real thing. Also, it's pretty brilliant.
But yeah, Touré, you have to tell Ben what you think of the movie. Oh, I know the video they took this from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a whole thing from the mid 80s to the early 90s, I guess.
The video is genius.
I thought so. They're pretty talented.
They were really funny. But Kathryn Bigelow, Near Dark.
Yeah. Okay. So there are lots of things about the film that I like, but it doesn't quite, it's not firing all cylinders for me for reasons that I said.
Say them again for the people that didn't hear that. I mean, that's how this works. Come on.
There are a lot of elements to the film that I like. As I said, I thought immediately that what was going on, it's a variation on Ben's observation, was that this was the sort of lovely, kind of damaged but still sweet girl that this boy, stable boy, meets and is completely infatuated with because there's complexity to her, and realizes that she has an abusive family or comes from an abusive family after she's invented vampire sex. And his job, because he's a sweet kid too, is to save her. And all of that leads to his obsession. And he does in the end save her. And I think that's kind of cool because having been a 16 or 17-year-old boy around the time this film came out, you know, I can find that even though I didn't see it until, you know, I was basically middle-aged, I remember being 16 and 17 at that time. And, you know, I can appreciate that aspect of the film. But I think it's mainly a sound production problem. There's something that didn't happen in post-production that undermines this film for me. I don't know what it is because I'm not a film geek, but
yeah, I mean, I was less bothered. I mean, I think I wasn't bothered by that. I mean, again, I don't. You know, you're talking about the X-Files earlier, and they play that. You know,
it's not just the scores though; it's the voices too. There's just something about the mix. Like there's a point where Dad fires a gun, you know, in the hotel, in the motel, and the gun is just the gun and the voices are the same volume. There's like no difference in decibel. So it's not just the scoring. There's something that didn't go right in sound with sound post-production.
Okay. This is actually true. I think I was actually noticing some of this and I actually wondered if it was the fault.
Maybe when I watched it on stream, they fixed that problem.
Yeah, it's my
It happens.
Trey and I both watched it on DVD. So, but yeah, definitely the version of the DVD, there were some sound issues. I did notice that. Like I said, I was actually wondering if that was something that had to do with the DVD itself. But yeah,
is there a special Blu-ray edition of this movie? I don't know. I'm asking. Was yours just a regular?
Know. I have a Blu-ray, but I bought the DVD because it was cheaper.
And it was like an old regular DVD.
I don't know. It was an old regular. It was new, but it was a DVD with director commentary.
Oh, how did you like? Did you watch it with Bigelow's commentary?
I only watched the beginning of Bigelow's commentary, which is why I knew about the mosquito, but I didn't want to be distracted by it.
Yeah, I watched less than you did, clearly, because I did not know the mosquito thing.
Have you guys seen The Keep? It came out a couple of years before this. And
I know about The Keep, but I didn't see it.
Tangerine Dream did the score there, and so it's very 80s synth and, you know, sort of attractive in that 80s synth way with the sequencer and all that stuff. That film does not hold up very well, though.
You said that film doesn't hold up well?
I don't think so. I have a nostalgic attachment to it. It's got Nazis and vampires, right? So or a demon In the novel, it's a vampire.
I'm a fan of Tangerine Dream scores. I'm a fan of
They're attractive.
I also like Giallo scores tend to be really cool. They have like Goblin do the scores in some of those movies.
What about Danny Elfman?
I feel like you've heard one, you've heard them all. Kind of like Trent Reznor. Like you've heard one, you've heard them all. They're not bad, but there's something about a John Carpenter score that I get excited about.
Yeah, the Thing score is really good. Partly because there's a couple of different layers to it. There's the synth score, and then there's the orchestral score that I think was in the original that Carpenter also incorporates into it. And the combination of the two works very nicely.
But when it comes to amazing scores, right now, for me, Death Wish 2 and 3.
Okay. Well,
Jimmy Page, I did not know did those scores.
Led Zeppelin.
I had to look it up. My daughter's with me. I was like, Jayla, can you look up if it's Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin? He did the score for 2, and they literally just took the same score for 2 and put it in 3.
All right.
It's one of those scores that doesn't make sense. And Death Wish 4 for me has the greatest not just ending, but the ending music where and I don't care if this is a spoiler alert for you because the movie's 40 years old, but when he kills the bad guy with the grenade launcher from
classic scene
from maybe 10 feet away, right? It's just the biggest, like you could have shot him and it would have been equally as like, oh, but you blew him away. And the music plays, it's like that 80s early 90s saxophone, like you just rolling down an LA street on a Friday night, and he just walks away like, oh, another chick died, and then he just kind of moseys on down the lane.
Wow. So is it like the sax solo in Duran Duran's Rio?
I wish. Can we find that? If that's got to be somewhere. That's got to be somewhere. The end of Death Wish 4. Dan Larson makes it a thing on his show all the time where they play where the guy goes, "I warned you," because the bad guy shoots Charles Bronson's love interest in this way where it's like you didn't have to do that. Like, why did you do that? What did you think was going to happen when you did that? You shot with an Uzi in front of him when he's holding a grenade launcher. He's just murdered literally 2 rival drug cartels, and he murdered everyone in your drug cartel and had no problem pulling out this grenade launcher in a roller rink full of people. What did you think he was going to do when you murdered his girlfriend in front of him? He wasn't going to be like, oh, okay, all's fair in love and girlfriend murdering. No. You found him because you found out he murdered another crime syndicate in the previous movie. That's how you found him as the main bad guy.
You know what other movie you might have opinions about?
What's that?
Near Dark.
Oh, I could. There's just not as much murdering.
There is a fair amount of murder in Near Dark.
There's a few scenes where there's some murdering, but this just doesn't touch of Bronson murdering. I really enjoyed Near Dark again because for me, I'm a big fan of the horror movie genre altogether, and I think this movie gets buried in a lot of the more popular films of the era, even though it has a great cast, Oscar award-winning director. The late Bill Paxton is in it. I think the score was pretty fun for a movie like this. And plus my nostalgia goggles are always on whenever I'm, watching stuff like this. And I just have such a hard on for synthy scores and 80s kind of poppy, not poppy, but like gothy music. I rediscovered the soundtrack to The Lost Boys. I forgot how good that soundtrack was. But in juxtaposing this movie to The Lost Boys, which I did when I watched it, kind of like the other night we watched Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
Yeah.
And maybe because Ben's not a fan of that movie, I saw that movie in a whole nother light. And for me, when I watched Near Dark, I was like, oh man, this is a good ass movie. And I hope no one remakes it.
Yeah, right.
I think it's perfect where it sits.
The remake was canceled because there was an effort to an attempt to remake it. I think going back about 15 years ago or something like that.
Oh,
Yeah. No, I mean,
Yeah.
I think this was sound issues aside. I think this was solid. Like, I don't, the last, as I was mentioning before we started recording, the last new to me 1980s horror movie I saw was The Howling, which which I definitely liked more than I liked this. But it was this was I thought this was solid. This was better than I expected, to be honest with you.
Well, Howling's a totally different movie too, right? It's funny.
Yeah.
And kind of intentionally
Joe
campy.
Dante.
Yeah. And spoofs the genre in some ways and some of the themes of the moment, like the whole self-help craze of the late 70s and early 80s. My wife enjoys reading horror fiction, so she did not like The Howling, but I bought her the novel, and I won't get into what her issues were with that, but I learned from her the novel is very different from the film.
I don't know. Like I said, I really dug the film. I think it's a great popcorn flick. There's a few of these movies I think gets lost because for various reasons. Number one, especially the stuff in the 90s, special effects and practical effects don't look as good. But this movie, they didn't really need a lot of special effects. I think mood set a lot of it.
Why do you think it bombed? Because it's very well received. The reviews were strong, I think, at the time, and certainly in retrospect, since it's a cult film. I get why The Thing bombed, and The Thing shouldn't have bombed. Why do you think this film didn't even make back its budget?
I don't think it was the MTV movie that people thought it was going to be that Lost Boys becomes.
Okay. No, I buy that.
And I don't think it had an audience that made a lot of sense. So there's movies that come out in this era. I think you got Monster Squad, Lost Boys, and Near Dark. And all these movies for me are like classic films that I can watch over and over. Even my 4-year-old digs Monster Squad, right? But those movies all have problems. Who is really the audience for Monster Squad? Is it preteens? Is it teens? I don't know. Universal monsters at this point are kind of done, and to try to bring them back in any way, shape, or form where they're even menacing, it didn't work for certain audiences. Lost Boys works. It's the perfect MTV movie for the MTV generation. This movie, through the glasses of hindsight and nostalgia, may seem like an MTV flick, but because the soundtrack wasn't filled with In Excess and The Cure and Bon Jovi, insert band here, I think if this movie has the budget to license those songs, it's a very different film. But then how does that play out in a movie that's supposed to be taking place in the rural Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas area? It's not going to play as well. And country at this time is not what it is today. So what country music are you even going to play, right? So someone says Echo and the Bunnymen. Yeah, exactly. So I think we forget the sonic component of a lot of these movies that stay in our hearts. I was doing a thing on my Twitter when I was on Twitter, where I wanted to have a battle for tape deck supremacy, and I put all these soundtracks up against each other. And to my surprise, my biggest Hollywood crush, Joyce Heiser, follows me on Twitter now, because that's the woman, Touré. That's the woman from Just One of the Guys. I totally mind boobs, but that's the woman from Just.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, it was this fun competition, but people were kind of confusing the soundtracks with the movies. You know what I mean? But they're just so iconic. Pretty in Pink and Some Kind of Wonderful and Footloose and Batman and Purple Rain and Dirty Dancing. Like all these movies have songs that you go, oh yeah, I love that. And when you hear the song, you think of the movie, right?
Well, there was one top 40 song from the 80s that was in Near Dark. It was the John Parr Naughty Naughty.
Hum me a few bars.
Oh, I'm not going to do that. But it was, I thought it would have come out before 87 because it was more like a Corey Hart kind of song than it was, you know, a hair band kind of song or a Taylor Dane kind of song at the other end of the spectrum. So it was very different. And again, I might be wrong when that song came out, but it was a fairly big hit and had an MTV, some rotation on MTV, as I recall it. But I think that was the only popular song. I mean, one thing that clearly distinguishes this film, and this is certainly part of what you're saying, Jason, from those others, at the very least, the Lost Boys, is this doesn't really feel like a teenage audience in quite the same way that the Lost Boys did. And if you were a 16 or 17-year-old boy, I don't know that you would want to you reflexively get into a film where, I don't know, your vampire would-be girlfriend is really basically a metaphor for your girlfriend being raised by meth heads or whatever, and you want to save her. So a very different vibe. I mean, the vibe this has is more for grown-ups, though the main characters are teenagers, right? The two principal characters, the ones you're supposed to be rooting for anyway, are teenagers. So I could see that.
I'm sure they thought they were going to get a certain young audience with it, but again, I think the connection for people in this moment is running to the record store and getting the soundtrack. Like these movies, these 80s movies that are such a, again, part of my DNA, they open with a song, right? And they end with a song. Everybody, if I put on Simple Minds, you see Judd Nelson, you know, giving his Black Power fist at the end, because that's really what it was.
What was he, 35? He was a youthful 35, but I looked him up. I think he was like 28 or something like that. But I was surprised by how old he was in that film.
So this movie, you know, again, if I say Lost Boys, you think of Cry Little Sister, right? Or you think of the greasy saxophone man. There's so many musical things you think of and you don't think of before you even think of Kiefer Sutherland. And this movie,
well, it was fun, right? I mean, that's what made it fun. The Lost Boys, all that stuff, and it was. I mean, when I saw it with a bunch of my peers in the movie theater. We're all in high school, and we had a good time, you know, in the seats. Sometimes paying attention 70% and fucking around with each other for 30%, right? And it was the kind of movie you could do that with. It had an energy that lent itself to that. And Near Dark does not have that kind of energy.
So someone even mentioned Beverly Hills Cop. I mean, the Neutron Dance by the Pointer Sisters.
Yeah.
You know, that was
an MTV movie for sure.
These are the things that when you think about these movies from the 80s, like go back and if you give a damn, I think I pinned it to my Twitter page and there's a little bracket of these movies soundtracks. It's not actual movies fighting each other, but soundtracks. And when I was going back and putting the list together of like what movies soundtracks would battle each other, there was so many that I wanted to win that didn't win. And I think it's partially because some people are more partial to the film and they forget the soundtrack. But like, I loved the Wraith soundtrack. Remember the Wraith with Charlie Sheen?
I watched it recently.
Oh, I love that effing movie. Opens with that Ozzy song from Ultimate Sin, Secret Loser.
Yes.
Oh, dude. Love that soundtrack. The Demons movie soundtrack has like Iron Maiden and Motorhead in it.
The Italian
was in it.
Demons,
the Giallo. I wouldn't say it's a Giallo film, but it's an Italian horror film from the late 80s. So these it's like they knew the importance, and maybe to a fault, because we're gonna watch Nightmare 3 tonight, and that's Dream Warriors. That's everybody remembers Dream Warriors from that the Dokken song.
Yeah, I mean, that as a Dokken fan, maybe I'm biased, but that soundtrack was not evidence of the excess of the time, the way that Manhunter was totally Miami Vice.
Overlapping subject matter.
Yes, hence the slip. But Manhunter, I think, is damn near unwatchable because of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's I feel about Manhunter. Man, I will say I liked it a lot better than I liked the version that they did in the 2000s, the Red Dragon.
Really? You're the one.
Okay.
You're the one.
I mean, I saw them in reverse order.
Red Dragon had prequelitis.
That's true. That's very true.
That it's like you could tell that where their heart really was in like it did show you Anthony Hopkins, doing the Hannibal Lecter stuff. It's like it's just a movie. It's just one of these movies that exists to remind you of better movies.
Mm-hmm. No argument there. I mean, there are good elements to that.
And look, the do you see scene is like good and creepy, but it was good and creepy in Manhunter too.
Mm.
Good and creepy.
Though very much overdone and in Manhunter, and it's like a cross between a Duran Duran video and Miami Vice, which is kind of two versions of the same thing. From the score to the cinematography.
We have to be honest, and some of these movies did look like Duran Duran videos. Like watching Nightmare 2, it did kind of remind me of a made-for-TV movie, almost kind of music video style movie. Watching Nightmare 2, which is just such a departure from the first one, such a departure from the rest of the series, I think.
Somebody in the comments said I cannot handle Tarantino movies. I don't know what to tell you, sir, except it's possible you weren't 14 when Pulp Fiction came out.
That's fair.
Like I was.
That's fair. I walked out of Pulp Fiction.
I still love that movie.
I was 23 or 24, and the people who I heard rave about it were suburban white kids.
Yes.
And then when I finally saw it on my buddy's so-called pay-per-view, I was outraged.
We walked out. We walked out at the Eric Stoltz scene because we're like, this is just. Eric Stoltz was just so uncomfortable saying the N-word.
So for me, the last straw was when Tarantino shot.
You should get his people from. Yeah.
So it'll just roll off their tongue.
He doesn't say it naturally. Samuel, were you not showing him how to say it?
When Tarantino shoots Phil Lamar, Tarantino. When Travolta, I guess, shoots Phil Lamar in the face, and then Tarantino shows up as the fixer. That was it for me, right? Because he's inward.
Is the guy who's like the safe house owner?
Yeah, but he's helping them. Tarantino is helping clean up the Phil Lamar related mess, and in context, he's dead N-word. What am I supposed to do with the dead N-word? Sure. And how am I going to explain this to my wife? And you get the flashback, which what's supposed to make this okay is that he's married to a black woman. Yeah. And I don't know that black woman who will be fine with her white husband saying that shit, right? His credit could not have been that good, and he's not even cute to boot, right? So that would not have flown with anybody, but that's what's supposed to make it okay to suburban white kids.
I think the N-word usage is
beyond the N-word usage is the wig for Samuel L. Jackson for me.
Like
seriously, the wig was like, why? The wig, John Travolta's really weird inner
because Martin was big. The wig was necessary because Martin was big. And they're like, oh, okay, well, Martin plays all these characters with wigs. So let's put Sam Jackson in a Martin-like wig.
If I was Sam Jackson, I'm like, this is very unnecessary. You understand this?
Rowdy.
Yeah, because what's his name didn't have a wig. Ving Rhames doesn't have a wig.
Yeah, you don't want to see Ving Rhames. He's Ving Rhames.
I mean, he did in that movie where he was.
These are valid criticisms. Still like Pulp Fiction better than he did, and I liked Near Dark better than Touré did. So we're back.
No Ving Rhames is Don King or anything. I got you. Let it go. Great actor though.
I mean, I think what I'd really say for Near Dark is just that it's both like a very like simple, like it's got really good atmosphere.
I thought so.
It's a very simple story in a way that like works really well, but it's also like a very unusual story. I mean, like it actually is, it actually is like even now, right? Like a fairly distinctive take on the vampire genre.
Let's ask a question, an honest question. Are some of these movies for that time and that audience harder for people to understand the middle of America? Because also it's supposed to take place in Pittsburgh, I think, but with Sean Penn. The Madonna did the song. Oh God. At close range.
Okay.
Is that what it's called?
I don't know. I didn't watch
Christopher Walken, Sean Penn. Christopher Walken is his dad that kills his girlfriend. You don't remember that movie? Yeah. You guys have never seen that movie?
I've seen All the Right Moves, which is that.
Jesus Christ. This is not All the Right Moves. This is At Close Range with Christopher Walken and Sean Penn. I think his brother's in it too. Davey Penn.
So I couldn't tell you.
Ronnie Penn.
I mean, I was nodded along earlier, like I nodded along to how cattle ranchers are all doing. I have not seen this movie.
Oh, dude, we gotta fucking watch At Close Range.
Okay.
Jesus,
it's not a horror film.
It's you know what? It's horrific. But again, I don't believe that movie did that well, and it kind of had a big push because I want to say Sean Penn was with Madonna at the time that she does the soundtrack for it, or the main song, which is what song is that? Live to Tell. Did you just look? Is Madonna behind Touré?
So she's behind the scenes.
She fell asleep during Near Dark.
Did she?
Yeah.
I thought she would have liked that. Can you watch At Close Range with her?
I could try.
Can she hear me?
She actually said that we had watched Chernobyl Diaries, I think yesterday, which I'd seen, I wanted to put some crap on. And she was so frustrated after having said this is the worst movie ever 4 times, and I didn't budge. She just got up and did an hour of cardio and came back. I think it was 90 minutes of cardio, and came back, when it was over. But with this one, my wife had said something to the effect that I didn't have the energy to get up and do cardio, so I just went to sleep.
Wow.
That's near an exact quote.
Can she hear me?
No.
Can you relay this? I think you two should watch At Close Range. I really believe you both will like it.
Madonna's not in it, right?
Huh?
Madonna's not in it, right?
No. She just has the main song that's kind of played throughout the movie. I want to say it's Mary Stuart Masterson, Sean Penn, and his brother Danny Davey, Ronnie Penn, Johnny Penn. What's his brother name? Tom.
Christopher Penn, something like that.
Something like that. Benny Penn.
Peter Penn.
Lenny Penn. One of them Penn boys. But Sean Penn plays a kind of troubled youth that reconnects with his father, who is a gangster. And he goes and lives with his dad, and you have to watch it.
So is his brother...
hospital bed is actually behind Touré's to find her.
Was Sean Penn's brother in that movie? Was it like The Wildlife or something like that? It was a teen film from the 80s.
Oh, Bad Boys?
No. Sean Penn was in Bad Boys.
And so is his brother.
The film, I did not remember that, but the film that I'm thinking of, I think it was The Wildlife. I don't know that he was in it. Yeah, the film that I'm thinking of was called The Wildlife.
It's called The Wildlife.
Chris Penn. Yeah.
His name is Chris Penn. He's the one that passed away, right?
He's dead? Yes, he is dead. He
Yeah.
passed away in 2006.
Yeah, Chris Penn passed away.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sucks.
There's this
And on that note,
hurtful but not entirely comment about sound issues, which is why I'm not just doing this movie stream from Rosarito, but I'm just doing the regular show. I started renting studio space for that. Speaking of which, regular show on Monday is Cedric Johnson, so do check that out.
Ooh, that's gonna be a good one.
It is. Looking forward to that.
Go get his book.
And, yes.
After Black Lives Matter.
Yes, read the book. Good assemblage of quotes in the back cover, including one from Touré. But
I get a shout out in that book.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, good.
But what's the next one of these going to be about?
Good question.
I think you should watch At Close Range. Such a good.
That's not like a horror movie.
It has to be a horror movie.
Yeah,
yes.
I think let's keep.
I have also been watching some insane horror movies that you people should never watch.
Well, you brought up The Lost Boys like 200 times in this conversation. You want to just watch that? I mean, what are you guys feeling?
Oh, I could totally watch The Lost Boys.
Is that okay? I mean, that's going to be a commentary on the decade, obviously.
Sure.
We could just wait. Let's pump our brakes for a second.
All right.
We both have seen Searching for Darkness 47 times between the three of us.
Mm-hmm.
What should we see from that? That movie shows us movies like, oh yeah, that movie's hella good. Let's watch that. So what should we watch?
Well, should it be a good movie or some trash from the era?
Or a movie that we just haven't seen from the 80s in a while. There's movies from the 80s that I haven't. Did we do Night of the Comet?
No.
Night of the Comet.
But I'm down.
I
just watched that a few weeks back. So as did you, coincidentally.
Yes.
Yeah, I watched.
It's a great movie.
Like a few months ago.
Yeah, here.
Yeah.
Night of the Comet.
I would love to watch. Night of the Comet.
And you can watch everybody. You can watch Night of the Comet on YouTube now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody watching this, I understand. Not everybody's seeing in a near dark. Nobody has a good excuse not to watch Night of the Comet. It's a lot of fun.
Great popcorn movie.
Great popcorn movie.
Well,
order a pizza, make some popcorn, watch. You don't even have to find a streaming service. Literally, the entire movie's on YouTube.
The entire movie's on YouTube. I love it. And there's a lot of great commentary about the film as well. It was made on an extremely small budget. I think $300,000.
Something ridiculous.
Shot on location, and they built out sets. Insane for a movie.
Great
like
synth
that.
score too.
We could have a whole synth score thing.
I like some synth
Wait, it's the night.
like
hold up. Is it night? Either Night of the Comet or Halloween 3.
Oh, no question. Night of the Comet.
Really?
All right. Let's we can have the discussion about whether to eventually watch Halloween 3.
Okay. All right. Night of the Comet
is Night of the Comet for next time. So what's coming up
in TIR land?
TIR land, yeah.
That's a good question. Touré helped us book author and scholar Jay Arena. And we'll be talking about the neoliberalization of public schooling tomorrow. So in between movie watching, I will be not sleeping and reading so I can be prepared for the show and not just rely on my co-host, because I never do that.
All right. Well, sounds good. So check that out. And we'll be back here in a month or so to talk about Night of the Comet.